Right, this is a special episode because on my desk here I have the new OM System 50-200mm f2.8 IS Pro, a lens with an equivalent 100-400mm focal length and an optic that is going to be a game changer for wildlife photography. You're watching Adventures in Aperture, let's get to work. My name is Matty and this is Adventures in Aperture, the place to be for those seeking a deeper dive into camera and lens reviews. Come along as we explore cool locations with gear new and old, all in the pursuit of enjoying photography. There's so much to talk about with this lens, I'm really not sure where to begin, but stay with me on this because one thing is for sure. This is a very important optic for Micro Four Thirds photography and in fact wildlife photography as we know it. Now, full disclosure, OM System have loaned me this lens. We have it ahead of embargo, but they don't get any input on this video of course. This is an important lens because of the optic it effectively replaces, which is this one, the 40-150 f2.8 Pro. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I love shooting with Micro Four Thirds gear and that this is my favourite lens. It's an amazing optic and you can watch a full review on this playlist. But the 40-150 is now 11 years old, so it's no surprise that a replacement has come around. In fact, the 50-200mm is the first lens wholly developed by OM System, who have enjoyed a busy year, and they've also brought out cameras like the OM5 Mark II. Again, you can watch a review of that camera on this channel if you'd like to. And while I've got your attention, please remember to like and subscribe. Now, in a world of wildlife and action photography, two things matter most: reach and portability. For years, Micro Four Thirds MFT, the system has been the go-to for photographers who need a powerful, compact setup, and it's a system that has served me well over the years. The system's 2x crop factor means that a lens with a seemingly modest focal length delivers double the reach, turning a telephoto lens into a super telephoto without adding the extra bulk that weighs you down. OM System have doubled down on this advantage with the introduction of this, the 50-200 f2.8 IS Pro, and I want to say that this lens is a big deal for OM System. I talk to their PR staff all the time and I don't think they've ever been so excited about a product launch as they have with this one. The core of this lens appeal is of course its focal range, which again translates to 100-400 with that constant f2.8 aperture throughout the focal range. For wildlife photographers, this means the ability to shoot in low light conditions like dawn or dusk, allowing for fast shutter speeds to freeze action at lower ISO levels to maintain image quality. Of course, you can choose to pair the 50-200 with OM System's 2x converter, which bumps up the focal length to 200-800mm, albeit at a 5.6 max aperture. I actually own the 1.4x converter, so I can get a top focal length of 560mm at f4 from this lens, and that's quite a good sweet spot for wildlife photography actually. With 21 elements and 13 groups and an inner zoom structure, meaning the lens doesn't protrude out when you zoom in, the build benefits from that sort of weather resistance that OM System has become famous for. The lens is IP53 rated and operates down to -10 degrees. In short, if you're going to be out in poor weather, this lens will stand up to it. And of course, it sports the very cool white paint job, only the second OM System lens to feature this after the mega expensive 150-400 Olympus lens that cost around £6,000 if I remember rightly. Look, that lens was far too heavy for a Micro Four Thirds optic and didn't really get the take-up that it needed. In a way, the 50-200 takes the best bits from that mega expensive 150-400, the 40-150 and the 100-400, merging them together into a very well-spec'd fast aperture telezoom. The 50-200 tips the scales at 1075 grams without the tripod mount, and the ethos behind the lens is that users are encouraged to handhold the optic. Because of the weight saving, you're not reliant on a monopod or tripod and you can move around easily. And I'd say if you are going to be hand-holding all day, take the tripod mount off. It does come off, so that's a really cool feature. The lens is lightweight, but quite a bit heavier than the 40-150 it replaces, as this weighs just 760 grams without the tripod adapter. And you can see size-wise, it's a good bit different. It's even a little bit taller than the 100-400, but quite a bit taller than the 40 to 150 that theoretically it replaces. In reality, the 50 to 200, as I say, has a similar feel more to this lens than this lens in terms of handling and bulk. So let's talk a little bit more about this white paint job. Not only does it offer thermal protection, which is perfect if you say are shooting sports, are going to be on the sideline on a really hot day, but it also looks really professional and really premium too. On top of this, the lens benefits from image stabilization, IS, which stands for image sync, thanks to OM Systems technology. And this offers up to 7 stops of compensation. And remember, you're going to pair that with a 5-axis IBIS system from the likes of the OM1 Mark II. So you're getting a combo that will really keep your shots steady, especially if you're shooting in low light situations. In fact, I think now is probably a good time to pause and take a look at some of the test images I was able to capture with the 50 to 200 and the OM1 Mark II. Let's take a look. So bearing in mind that I've previously called the 40 to 150 the sharpest Micro Four Thirds telezoom on the market, well, the king has been dethroned because this lens, the 50 to 200, offers immense image quality. Sharp and detailed throughout the aperture range, you can capture professional level imagery, and the extra focal reach is very much appreciated when you're shooting wildlife. But there is much more to this lens, and there's plenty of other features you need to know about. The tripod collar is Arca Swiss and removable, unlike other lenses in the range, and the lens hood comes with a side axis element, so you can actually use a polarizer filter and be able to rotate it around without taking the lens hood off. But here's the thing, you're getting a lot more lens here, but that's going to cost you a lot more too. In fact, the 50 to 200 is priced at £2,999. I don't have the price in US dollars. $3,000 is a lot for an MFT lens, but I think for professional wildlife photographers or sports photographers, that investment is justified. Plus, a flagship full-frame camera from Nikon or Canon will set you back £4,500. But a flagship camera from OM System, the OM1 Mark II, is £2,000. So in a way, the more affordable body means you're offsetting an element of the cost of the lens. Now, if you're new to wildlife photography and don't have that sort of budget to blow, then by all means, the 40 to 150 f2.8 Pro will serve you well. And if you need longer reach, then the 100 to 400 lens is great value too, especially if you decide to buy from a second-hand platform. But if you want the best image quality possible from a Micro Four Thirds system, in 2025, the 50 to 200 is a clear winner. Now, let's follow up on some additional features before we round out this review, and we'll start with how fast this lens operates, because it actually supports up to 50 frames per second AF tracking sequence shooting. And this is an area where the 40 to 150 was a little bit compromised. The 50 to 200 locks onto subjects really quickly, and you'll really enjoy the benefit of that when light levels fall. I took this camera out, used it shooting under dense tree canopies, and the autofocus really surprised me. It was fast, it was accurate, and it gave me a lot of trust in that system. What's more, the lens is pretty versatile and offers a closest focusing distance of just 78 centimeters, and that's across the whole zoom range. What does this mean? Well, you can indulge your nature photography and get frame-filling shots of smaller subjects. In fact, this lens also supports focus stacking features on OM System cameras like the OM1 Mark II. Now, along with stills, I shoot a lot of video. So how does this lens perform when I turn the mode dial to movie mode? Well, really well actually. The speed of the lens focusing keeps up nicely and vastly reduces any lens hunting. In fact, let's take a look at some footage I captured using the 50-200, again paired with that OM1 Mark II. So how do I sum up the OM System 50-200 f2.8 IS Pro? Well, as you can see, there's a lot of glass in this lens, 21 elements in 13 groups with coating technology, so that goes some way to understanding the price tag. Yet OM System have achieved what they set out. Build a lens you can handhold that gives you amazing focal reach, yet maintains that fast f2.8 aperture. That's the magic combo for wildlife photographers. I don't want to sound too much like a fanboy, and I always point out compromises when they arise, but I have been impressed by the build, features and image quality of this lens. But it's also true that the price tag will prevent some photographers from upgrading. The ones who do have deep enough pockets will really appreciate the package. It's special, and yes, I think certainly for Micro Four Thirds photographers, this lens has completely changed the wildlife and nature photography game. Maybe even sports photography too. But what do you think of the 50-200? Are you planning to upgrade, or have OM System priced this lens just a little bit too high? Let me know in the comments, and remember to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.